A key player in the negotiations for a coronavirus relief bill, the Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin. Mr. Secretary, welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Good to see you. You were up on Capitol Hill all day yesterday. You're expected to be up there again today. We hear that this package is now $1.8 trillion and may go above it. Is this going to get done? And if so, when will it get done?
Well, thank you for having me here, and I do think it will get done. We've been working around the clock in the Senate with the Republicans and the Democrats. I've been speaking to Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, the Speaker, and I think we have a fundamental understanding, and we look forward to wrapping it up today. Let me just walk you through the highlights of the package, because the President is very determined to protect American workers. We've ordered a major part of the economy to shut down, and the President wants to protect them. So the first part are what I call small business retention loans. If you're a small business, you'll get 2 weeks of cash flow to pay your workers. You need to retain them. You'll also get some overhead, and if you do that, those loans will be forgiven. That's about half of our workforce. That will allow small businesses to keep people and make sure when we open the economy, they're up and running. The second part is direct deposits. The average direct deposit or check for a family of four will be approximately $3,000. This you can think of as a bridge for them to get through this quickly. The third component is enhanced unemployment insurance for people that are laid off due to the coronavirus. And the fourth component is a significant package working with the Federal Reserve. We'll have up to $4 trillion of liquidity that we can use to support the economy. And those are broad-based lending programs under Section 13.3. We can leverage our equity working with the Federal Reserve. And then on top of it, the President is determined. Hospitals need money. There's a very significant amount of money for hospitals and medical professionals.
Last I heard that for the hospitals, it was $110 billion. Is that what you're looking at still?
That's approximately, we're negotiating the final numbers, but we want to make sure the hospitals have money. The best way to get through this is for us to win this war with this virus.
Let me ask you this question, because liquidity is key here. And what we've heard so far with this bill, and maybe it's changed in the last 24 hours, that was the liquidity assistance really was sectoral. A lot of it going to the airlines, cruise ship industry, hotel industry. Now the auto industry has got its hand out as well. Whereas there are people who say that it really needs to be broad-based across the entire economy. Where are you on that front?
Well, I think, as you know, when this started, this was a bit unique to the airlines industry since we had shut down most of airline travel. But now that we've shut down major parts of the economy, this liquidity facility is a broad-based liquidity facility working with the Fed. So there is a small component for airlines, national security companies, but there's a very broad-based, as I said, we can lever up to $4 trillion to help everything from small businesses to big businesses get through the next 90 to 120 days as we win this war.
Let me ask you about this direct deposit. You said $3,000 for a family of four. That's about $1,000 per adult and $500 per child. That was one of the formulas that was floating around last week. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont also continues to be a presidential candidate, saying that's nowhere near enough. Listen to how he put it.
What in God's name does a $600 check or a $2,000 check mean one time when you are unemployed? Yes, it may get you through 3 weeks, maybe stretch it, get you through a month, but that is nowhere near what the working people of this country need and should have.
Mr. Secretary, you've suggested in the past, that other White House officials have as well, that this idea of a direct payment may come in two different tranches. One on April the 6th, another one maybe on May 18th. Are you still looking at that, or is this a one-time only payment?
Well, for now in this legislation, it is one payment. But let me just say, these three pieces all tied together. Workers will get money through the small business program, again, through retention. They'll get money through unemployment, and they'll get effectively this bridge check payment, which is really a direct deposit. So these three programs all work very quickly. And if for whatever reason, 10 weeks from now, this virus, we haven't won this, we'll go back to Congress again. But I think we're injecting a lot of liquidity into the system. And hardworking Americans know that the president wants to protect them, and we're doing everything to support them.
I was going to just ask you that question. That is, what is the time frame in which this stimulus package is designed to work? Is it 6 weeks, 8 weeks? You mentioned just a second ago, 10 weeks?
Well, first of all, I hope this gets passed on Monday because we need the money now. I would say we're looking at this from anywhere to a 10 to 12 week scenario. But again, this situation is moving quickly. We need to get the money into the economy now. If we do that, we think we can stabilize the economy. We're putting a lot of money into the hospitals. And, I think the president has every expectation that this is going to look a lot better 4 or 8 weeks from now.
Right. So if this does go beyond 10 weeks, because, I mean, we've seen what the infection curve is like in South Korea. We've seen it in China. We don't know what it's like here in the United States, particularly in New York City. If after 10 weeks, businesses still have to remain closed and nobody's flying on the airlines or staying in hotel rooms, can you keep going back to the well? Larry Kudlow has suggested that with interest rates the way they are, borrowing is basically a bottomless pit. But, I mean, how much debt can you take on to address this?
Well, I think the good news is the U.S. economy is strong, okay? We've stopped major parts of it. But when we get through this virus, as I've said, I think you're going to see the U.S. economy come back to the strength. We have great companies. We have great workers. What we need to do is have a bridge to get through this. And this isn't the financial crisis that's going to go on for years. So I've been listening to the medical professionals. I think there's a lot of advances that are being made on different types of treatments. We're going to do whatever we need to do to win this war. And I think this bill gives us a lot of money to create a lot of liquidity in the system and protect Americans. And if this lasts longer, we'll come back again.
All right, you said that the economy is strong. You expect it to bounce back. But how long can we stay in the situation we are in now before this temporary damage becomes permanent? Because there are a lot of smaller businesses that are going under day by day because they can't stay open, they can't pay their people, and even the financial assistance isn't going to help them out.
Well, this financial assistance will help them out. So approximately 50% of the economy is small businesses. And what we're doing here is we're providing the liquidity for those small businesses, many of which have zero revenues, to give them money to pay their workers, to pay their rent, to pay their electricity.
But is that going to cover everybody? I mean, there are an awful lot of small businesses here.
That will cover, kind of roughly half of the private workforce. And yes, in most cases, it's companies 500 or less. But yes, that's going to cover roughly half the workforce. And as I said, for bigger companies, we have liquidity facilities. We'll have enhanced unemployment insurance, again, just for the coronavirus. But we want to make sure that workers are paid.
Are we currently, Mr. Secretary, in a recession?
I think that's a technical question that in this situation is not terribly relevant. Are we going to have reduced economic activity this quarter? Absolutely. I think next quarter, a lot depends on how quickly the curve of the medical situation works. But, when people focus on recessions, it's normally because of a prolonged economic environment. This is a very unique situation that we've never had before. This is the government has self-imposed shutting down large parts of the economy. And as soon as we can get the medical situation under control, we're going to reopen it. And to the extent we've kept all these small businesses in business, we've kept workers with them, when we reopen the economy is going to bounce back significantly.
The Washington Post reported yesterday that the intelligence community was giving the White House warnings back in January and early February that the situation coming out of China was very, very serious and would likely end up in a pandemic. Were you over at the Treasury Department ever warned that something like this was coming down the pike? Because the initial White House reaction appeared to be, oh, don't worry, it's over there in China. I was told, why do we need to respond robustly because there's only 16 cases here? Were you ever warned early on by the intelligence community that this was coming?
I want to be careful talking about specific intelligence, but let me be clear. And this is not just in the U.S. This is around the world. Nobody expected this to take off at the rate it did. And even as you know, I've now been on the task force listening to the medical professionals for a long period of time. I said a few weeks ago, I felt comfortable traveling on commercial airfare. I did. The situation has changed very quickly, and the president has responded to that. As we saw the spread here, we shut down airline travel abroad with Europe. That was a very important move. And as we've seen states, we've been working with the states in recommending this. So I don't think anybody should second guess the government actions. This has been moving very quickly, and I think we've responded appropriately.
The Defense Production Act, the president basically activated it, but he hasn't yet put it into practice. But we have states like Michigan and so many others, and we're going to talk to the governor of Michigan coming up a little bit later, who are in desperate need of medical supplies. General Motors is volunteering to make ventilators, but does the president need to pull the trigger on the Defense Production Act and say, industry, get out there and make this equipment, because we're running behind, this is only going to get worse before it gets better, and we need you to step up to the plate now?
Well, I know the task force is very focused on supply chains. Quite frankly, I'm full-time focused right now on the economic side of this. We have other people working on the supply chains. But I have every confidence that the president has these powers. He's working with private industry, and we're expediting this as quickly as possible.
Just before we go, when do you expect to vote on this fiscal stimulus package?
Monday morning.
All right. Secretary Mnuchin, as always, thanks for your time, and see you at the White House tomorrow. We'll keep an eye on the action on Capitol Hill.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next, we'll ask